We're Renee
and Courtney, your online sisters, and we're on a mission to help women across the world become the best version of themselves through the power of sisterhood.
That's why we've written To My Sisters, a guide to building lifelong friendship.
From working out how to achieve your dreams to setting boundaries and managing expectations, this essential handbook will show you how to fully embrace the power of friendship and community.
Packed with practical advice and personal stories from our decade-long friendship, we'll give you all the tools and advice you need to find, make, and keep lifelong friendship.
To My Sisters is available now online and at all good bookshops.
There seems to be a growing disdain for marriage.
As much as people dislike marriage, we don't hate relationships. We're still seeking love.
You know, you've got a whole host of men who feel like, I don't know what I bring to the table now, which is why you're always constantly coming on these podcasts to ask women, what do you bring to the table? Constantly.
It's less of a scrutiny people have of marriage and more so a scrutiny people have of men.
Mm-hmm.
Do you get what I mean? It's like...
Let's go.
Hello and welcome to the To My Sisters podcast. I'm Courtney.
And I'm Renee, and we are your online sisters and hosts of the To My Sisters podcast.
We are all about promoting the wellness, growth and development of a community of sisters across the world.
And in today's episode, we are going to be talking about the modern woman and marriage, divorce, and whether marriage is still really worth it.
Okay.
Exciting scenes.
I think the last time we talked about this, I was wearing the same jumper actually.
Really? It's all coming full circle.
Yeah.
Coming full circle. But yeah, I thought it would be a good idea to have a conversation on, obviously we've been referencing marriage in some of our recent episodes, but also just thinking about our perception as women when it comes to marriage. Is it still something we believe in? Is it still something to aspire to? What is going on right now where there's a lot of ladies who are out here not interested in dealing with any man's BS right now. So we're going to all get into all of that exciting stuff.
Nice.
But before we do have a few housekeeping.
Okay.
By this time, we will have become
Oh my God.
official authors.
God.
That's right, ladies. That means as you are listening to this, the To My Sisters book, A Guide to Building Lifelong Friendships, is available and out there for you to purchase, buy, and hold.
Crazy.
Behold, we have done a new thing. So, ladies, we would absolutely so much appreciate you if you would support a good sister.
Yeah.
And purchase that book.
Yeah.
Also share with your sisters, share with your mother, your auntie, anyone else that you think that our book can help. Yeah. We had such a whale of a time writing the book, and it's been a whale of an experience so far. So we are just so excited to have something out there for you to have, to hold, to enjoy. And we'd also love it that if you have read the book, drop us some reviews.
Yes, let us know what you think. But honestly, thank you. Thank you for all of your support on this entire process. It has been over a year of us just talking, working, writing, thinking, and also just being inspired by you. So thank you for constantly encouraging us, constantly celebrating us, and for picking up the book and for getting around to reading it and sharing it with your friends. Genuinely, we really appreciate you being a part of this process. This is a win for the sisterhood, but also this is an ode to the sisterhood, if you will. And so we just know that I hope you know that you're a huge part of this for us as well. So thank you so much for your... We're saying this well in advance because honestly, it's about a week before publication for us. Literally. But honestly, just thank you for celebrating us, because we know we're gonna get so much love, and it's so comforting to know that you have a community, whether it be a digital one, that is going to celebrate your every success. So thank you so much for celebrating with us so far, and there will be more reasons to celebrate in the future. Tomorrow, literally tomorrow, you're listening to this on Sunday the 12th, so tomorrow you are going to be hopefully at our live event. If you're in London, International Sisters, we are sorry, but we are currently planning some very fun international things. We're actually so that we will be with you, so that we can read the book together, so that we can laugh, we can gist, we can dance. And so, but for the London girls or for the people in the UK, please do come to the launch that's happening tomorrow. We're going to be in conversation with Tolly T, which is super exciting. And you can come, ask us questions. We'll sign your book. We're always huggers when we're out and about. Absolutely. So come and give us a hug as well.
Don't somersault us though and tackle us.
I'm screaming now.
Been privy to a few side tackles, but we are.
Have we?
Girl.
I haven't.
I have.
Oh, okay, fair enough. But yeah, we cannot wait to see you. And so head to the link in our description, not only to get the book, but also to get a ticket and just support the amazing things we're trying to do over here as we grow the sisterhood.
Absolutely. As Courtney said, we appreciate every single one of you. Thank you for listening into this podcast, whether you are a lifelong legacy sister from day one to whether you heard of this podcast yesterday. Welcome, sis. We are so happy to have you. We're so happy to welcome you, and welcome to the sisterhood. We are hoping, we've already built some really crazy and amazing things, but we are hoping to continue to build some crazy and amazing things too, but with your help. So stay plugged in. Thank you so much. We are so excited, and here's to even more glowing and growing across this journey.
For sure.
As is customary at To My Sisters, would it be a podcast if we didn't start with a ding ding ding
Dilemma?
Hey sisters.
Hello friends.
I appreciate you guys so much.
We appreciate you too.
I have a little question.
Yeah, that's the way.
How do you find the balance between growing and glowing, looking introspectively and becoming more self-aware, with not being judgmental about others around you because they aren't also growing, or being intolerant to other people because they just don't get why you think the way you do? Like, how can I possibly treat people like that? I think it's easy to say we should set boundaries, but in work environments and in personal environments, how do we do this and how do we create space for this? This is in response to a TikTok I saw, which states, no one talks about how being emotionally intelligent makes you the most annoyed and disappointed.
Oh, it's a bit depressing.
It is a little bit sad.
I think there is a burden that comes with self-awareness, and it's the same with like being woke, for example. Once you become aware of things, but no, for real, once you become aware of things, everything kind of gets a grey hue on it, where it's like, there's a burden to having wisdom. There's a sadness that comes with it. Like, I was talking to a friend the other day, and they were saying how it's no surprise that in the Bible, if you don't know, we are Christians, but this place is for everybody. Please don't run away. But that's what we think is subscribed to in terms of our faith and our personal journeys. But they were saying how it's no surprise that one of the books of wisdom in the Bible is Ecclesiastes, which is one of the saddest books. Like, literally, it's just like, we're all gonna die anyway. Don't get so caught up in life. Relax. Like, you're here today, you're gone tomorrow, kind of thing. And there is an element of wisdom that is a sadness, so there's an element of enlightenment which comes with sadness, and so I think that that's just something that has to be embraced. But also I think it invites us into a very beautiful thing, which is actually getting to build relationships with people which are based on conversation and a desire to find understanding, not necessarily agreement. And I think with the glowing and growing journey, it's so easy to want to enforce it on other people, but this is a choice that you have made for you. This is a lifestyle or a life journey that you have decided to commit to on your own, and other people are not glowing and growing, or resisting self-growth in the way that you define it because they are bad people, or they are people who just don't want to work on themselves. They're just on a different journey to you. And that's actually completely fine. They are still human beings, and they are still worthy of your respect. At least to the very least, to hear their story, to hear their opinions, to have conversation with them, and to not just write them off, or to not see them as an annoyance, as the TikTok said, because I think that can be a huge symbol of something we've spoken about before, which is pride. And one of the biggest things you don't want to do, and one of the biggest traps you don't want to fall into, is deciding to glow and grow and then it making you an arrogant person because you are healing, and all these magical words with pixie dust around them. It's like, I'm healing, I'm growing, I'm self-actualizing, I am all these things. You may even be growing in your faith. Like, one of the things that we have to constantly contend with is, do not be prideful. Do not think that just because you have taken up this this decision to become a better person that you are now the best person in the world. That's not how it works. You are working on yourself and you're choosing to do that in a specific way. And you can also bring other people's attention to themselves if they desire it, but it is not your job to be a fixer. It is not your job to be someone who forces other people to making decisions which they don't want to make for their life. All you can do is present options. All you can do is, yes, guard your heart and have your boundaries. But also when it comes to things like your work environment, your educational environment, where you're confronted with so many different people with different viewpoints, I think that's where you get to practice one of the most beautiful things which we seem to be losing in society, which is humanity. You simply get to be a human being interacting with other human beings, and that means listening, that means talking, getting to know people, conversating. It also means having to tolerate certain things, being allowed to disagree with certain things, but also other people being allowed to disagree with you. And I mean, we set ourselves up for failure when we think our glowing and growing journey requires us to just surround ourselves with people who agree with us. That's not how life works, and that's also not how you build true, authentic relationships and navigate through a society which is filled with diverse thought, diverse experiences, and diverse people. And it's something we even talk about in our book, if you've read it in the intro even, talking about how sisterhood isn't necessarily about just finding agreement. It's not just about finding sameness. It's actually an embrace and a respect for difference as well. And so you have to have a respect for the fact that everyone's at a different stage in their journey, but also not everyone's journey is going to look like yours. And all you can do is be a positive, it's a part of your character development as well, is be a positive presence in somebody's life, if as a reflection of your own character, rather than trying to force them to be somebody else. Show them who you are. And that's what I'd say. How about you?
That. No, I love that. I echo everything you've said and raise you too.
Echo.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with that. I think the only things I would add to that is just stressing on that humility point, right?
Yeah.
I think sometimes, again, we can think of self-awareness as this, I've become better, I've been enlightened, I'm suddenly, above you. And it makes me think of the term, the Dunning-Kruger effect, where it's the more educated and the more knowledgeable you become, the more aware you also become of all of your deficits. So if anything, self-awareness should be a very humbling process where it's not just about the acquisition of knowledge around, a whole host of different areas, but also knowledge of your own deficits and using that as a guiding principle and using that as an opportunity to really manifest that humility towards people, because you are at least aware of your own shortcomings, right? And also using that as a means to give other people grace. I think that as we become more self-aware, as we become more knowledgeable, as we become more wise, it's actually an opportunity for you to extend the hand of grace to other people and use all of these hindrances as opportunities to really reach out and connect with people on their level, as opposed to coming up. I think sometimes we wrongly associate and think that self-awareness and going on this growing and glowing journey is merely about coming up and just being above others, when really it's about coming around and actually extending a hand or building communities or, building relationships, because you have this knowledge, because you have this wisdom, and because you have this foresight. And who knows, like your self-awareness, your emotional intelligence could be the liberation to another person. It could be something that somebody else needed. One of my favorite sayings is, oftentimes we are the answer to somebody else's prayer. And really seeing self-awareness and this journey as an opportunity to be an answered prayer and decentering yourself is really, really important. Even when we think about emotional intelligence, it's not just about being intelligent to your own emotions. It's about actually accurately reading other people and then acting accordingly, because you are aware of their emotions and their state of being. So with that knowledge that you have of other people, with that emotional intelligence, with the general intellect that you're pursuing, how can you actually be a person that is a solid contributor to their own self-development? How can you actually help people out? So I think even reframing that whole glowing and growing journey, and it's something that we've spoken about multiple times, as being a community effort, as being something that allows you to connect with people on a more deep and more understanding basis, will really, really be helpful. So yeah, I think it is sad sometimes though, insofar as I think we sometimes have this view, or when we think we're leading a better life, it's natural to want other people to do the same.
For sure.
And dealing with the reality that there's other people that are probably not living the life up to your standards or up to a way that you think or you perceive as better can be really difficult. And it's that sadness that can color the way that you interact with other people. But I think having that humility, but also having hope that you can actually be an example, right? Like you can actually set the standard, quote unquote, and you can actually show. I think one of the most powerful ways that we can support other people is actually by being a light in their life. So whilst it may not mean that they're on your level per se, or you may disagree about certain things or have different lifestyle habits or choices, using these as opportunities to demonstrate, actually, sis, I actually want more for you. And because I've wanted more for myself, I'm using that as an opportunity to demonstrate that I want more for you in this area too. And then also respecting people's choices, right? Like, as you were saying, like people have different opinions as it pertains to what a good life looks like or what glowing and growing looks like. And they have different rates and different circumstances that may also impact the rate at which they're able to glow and grow. So it's about shelving the frustration, being as patient as possible, supporting where you can, and actually being an example that I think will be the most powerful in this situation. And really just taking in and enjoying the ride as much as possible, especially because it comes with a sobriety. Sometimes it's just necessary to sit back, relax, and whilst you're going through your own process and journey, actually, as you were saying, celebrate those differences, have those conversations, have those frustrating debates, and try and find some means to connect with those people, because that is the most powerful tool when it comes to self-actualization, self-awareness. It's not just about the self, but it's also about connecting with other people.
That's good. And I think it's also being available to be a help rather than and an example, because it's easy to kind of block out people because, you know, boundaries, or I'm trying to protect and guard, you know, my mind and, you know, not be affected by other people. But really and truly, it's sometimes good to be open, not necessarily to receive or be influenced, but to have conversation and to be helpful to other people. You know, it's actually a really big privilege to be in a position in someone's life where you do have access to them quite frequently, in terms of you're always at work together, or you go to the same classes together, or they have to listen to you about certain things. That can also be an avenue to be like, oh, you know what, I'm, rather than closing the boundary, I'm actually opening up a conversation or opening up a relationship here where I can show you how I can be a help to you, give you advice, help you overcome certain things that you're going through. And I think that slowly allows people to become more open as well to pursuing what it is that you pursue. Because sometimes people can then see like the glowing and growing process and be like, I don't want to follow that because you're mad arrogant, or, you know, your team don't sit with us, or you're a mean girl, you're all these things because of arrogance and pride. And this isn't to say you shouldn't take your glowing and growing journey seriously and be protective of it, but it does go to say that you do get to a point of your personal development journey where, you know how to teeter the line of not being influenced but being influential, and that comes with an openness. So you have to know how to be open without letting things in, but actually knowing how to let things out in order to be a positive impact in people's lives. And that's a great position to hold as well. So yeah, maybe take this as an opportunity not to cut people off, but to actually invite them in to conversation, and the exposure to how great you are, and also helping them make that decision for themselves.
For sure. And also open up if there's areas that you might need to work on. You will be surprised. We often think, I'm emotionally intelligent until something happens or something comes up. Or, you know, the person that you've perceived to be less emotionally intelligent may be very strong in a very specific area. So
and it's usually those people that challenge our thinking.
There you go.
So
genuinely, sis, wishing you all the best in your, you know, relationships and your engagements with other people. Don't be too sad. At least you're part of this community of sisters who really, really prioritize self-development, glowing and growing, and definitely use this as an opportunity to be a helper, as well as being helped. So sending you lots and lots of love.
For real.
Moving swiftly on to the meat and bones, the main course, the petit déjeuner, the breakfast, lunch and dinner of this conversation, which is all about marriage, relationships, long-term relationships, but also I think we're in a bit of a crisis when we think about marriage and the modern woman. And it's not something that we've shied away from having conversations about on this podcast at all. as two single and unmarried ladies.
Unmarried.
Unmarried. You know what they say, single to single till you marry, baby.
Unmarried. Eggs ain't correct. Single Pringles.
Single Pringles. And and it is, I feel like it's a necessary conversation to continually revisit, especially with changes, social media, as we're getting older. And I think also what we've been privy to in, you know, our communities and online. And there seems to be a growing disdain for marriage and what it brings.
That's so interesting.
And a growing disdain for, especially at least in the heterosexual and heteronormative relationships. For sure. And obviously we're speaking from, you know, we're both Christian women. We both believe in the primacy of marriage and all that kind of good stuff. But just thinking about marriage as an institution and marrying a man and, you know, settling down and all that kind of stuff, suddenly there's a lot of folks that are finding it very unappealing recently. They don't like it. And I would love to know your opinions as to why the growing disdain of marriage is happening right now. What's going on?
So I think it's two things, right? No, sorry. I think it's two things. One actually is it depends on what echo chambers you found yourself in. Because I definitely found that, like, the more I have, since leaving Twitter, my life has become better. Let me just say that. It's a nice platform.
No, but guys.
But
some of you are miserable. Miserable.
So I think there's general sentiment, but it's not always reflective of societal sentiment.
Right.
Do you get what I mean? Or wider sentiment. So I have found that I have suddenly got into a place where I'm like, oh no, people want to be married.
Right.
I TikTok, my TikTok algorithm, my Instagram is like, no, the girls are out here like, where is my husband?
They want to be
where
married.
Is my and I think that's heavily because, you know, with religion and different faiths, especially, you know, maybe traditional Abrahamic faiths.
Yep.
Marriage is a core tenet, like you mentioned, in terms of us being Christian. Marriage is actually a core tenet of the faith's culture and what it teaches its people. And anyway, we could do a whole theological breakdown another day. But yeah, I think that marriage holds its place. And so the more I've become more exposed to those things, the more I'm like, no, actually people out here wanting to get married. And I like it. I do like it. But then there's another extreme where there's an idolatry and an obsession and a pedestaling of marriage, and to a degree a over glamorization of it as well. So that's another criticism for them. But I think the reason why we see a more general worldly disdain for marriage is because we have begun to see more and more that oftentimes marriage just isn't respected.
Right.
And not just people's view of marriage, but also people within marriage not respecting what the marriage actually means. And it doesn't mean people don't get to be human, but it does go to say that regardless whether you want marriage and whether you think it's great, or whether you hate marriage and you think it is the worst thing on the planet, the two people can actually still come to a very common ground, which is marriage looks tough. Right? So you can hate marriage because marriage looks tough, or you can be willing to go through the hardness of it and still want to obtain the beauty that comes with marriage as well. But I think marriage looks really hard sometimes, and we have seen people who have literally been burned and scolded and experienced embarrassment that has been birthed from them committing themselves to somebody and something going really wrong, like a violation of trust, cheating, somebody just not really caring about the fact that this step that they've taken really does mean you owe somebody some kind of loyalty, you owe somebody some kind of commitment or whatever. And I think the more we see that, the more we're like, is this thing even beneficial? You know, if people aren't going to keep their word. But also in a more maybe practical aspect in society, we've seen trends towards being able to cohabit without marriage and still build a life together. So for some people, it's not necessarily that they hate marriage, but to them, the license isn't needed. The certificate isn't necessary. The ceremony doesn't really matter. It's more so about I've chosen to do life with you, and we've kind of made that vow to each other in word, or just showing, you know, up for each other and being present, and that's enough to kind of symbolize our commitment. So why do we need to officialize it with a marriage ceremony or going to the courthouse or whatever way you want to do, or going to see, you know, religious officials or whatever? So I think there's also that place of maybe marriage, like, because as much as people dislike marriage, we don't hate relationships. We're still seeking love. We're still seeking companionship. We're still seeking sex. We're still seeking to have kids. We're still, like, as much as these things may be on the decline because of economic downturn, or, you know, just people doing it older as well. Maybe it's just that younger people are kind of like, ew, I don't want it now, but when I get to 30, then I'll start thinking about it. There are so many different factors at play. I think the general forecast is, oh, people don't want to get married, but actually I think people want the commitment. They just don't want the finality sometimes that comes with being married, and the fact that when you get married, from our perspective anyway, it really is a signing up to a degree, as uncomfortable it is as it is, be a fool for love. It now means that you've got to forgive, especially if you are taking it from a more religious standpoint. So I'm not just, we talked about the legal in the Valentine's Day episode. You should go listen to that, because heavy on that part.
Hello.
We need that thing in writing.
Hello.
But also on the more like spiritual aspect, because to me, my opinion, you can drag me for it, don't care. Marriage is a spiritual commitment. So in the more spiritual aspect, or in the more soul, mind to mind, heart to heart, body to body side of it, it means that now I have to be committed to you. And I'm saying I want to do this for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness, in health, till death do us part. Which means that whatever you put me through and whatever I put you through, we have to get past it. But also I'm now trusting you to not put me through anything, because life's already going to put us through a lot. I don't need you to put me through anything. And then there's that embrace
not you
of
being the worst.
Exactly. You are the worst. You are the sickness. You are the poverty. It is you in human form.
You know what it reminds me of? You know them Instagram posts that you see of like couples.
Oh, we've been through so
We've
much
been through
together.
so
Stop
much.
putting her
You
through
put
stuff.
me through so much.
No, and it's stuff, but it's stuff like
Yikes.
that makes people think, why would I want to be with someone who puts me through? And so I think it's more so it's less of a scrutiny people have of marriage, and more so a scrutiny people have of men. Do you get what I mean? It's like,
Let's go. Let's go.
Do we want to marry these people who we have come to believe we cannot trust and we cannot expect much of? And this is not me, you know, adding to the hate men agenda. No, please. Don't do that.
We like
I
men.
don't like that.
We like men.
We like men. Not like that, please.
Yeah, not like
we
that.
also
Nah,
celebrate
come on, man. Do you know what I mean?
unmarried
Do you know what I
women.
mean?
It's more so an acknowledgement of the fact that through years and years of media coverage,
Absolutely.
through years and years of folk tales, through years of maybe viewing failed or dysfunctional relationships, or maybe seeing the unfortunate consequences of toxic masculinity unfold in your family, your household, amongst your parents, amongst the people you love, maybe being a victim to abuse, or seeing women who have been victims to male perpetuated violence. Like you think to yourself, can I trust a man, let alone marry him? You know, can I give a man, and this is me talking more generally, and I know it's sensitive, but in the sense that with constant, not just narratives as if they've been created out of nowhere, but with statistics, with life experience, with past heartbreak, with social media, the red pill community, the rise of certain people. And you see men champion that. You think to yourself, certain men champion that. You start to think to yourself, can I trust you? And with the responsibility of marriage as well, being that I think a woman and a man give themselves over so much in vulnerability, in the highest form of friendship. If you read our book, you see all the things we talked about in terms of building a friendship. Now imagine doing that with a partner and someone who everything is now merged with you, two people becoming one. You then start to think, in a world where people seem to be deflecting responsibility, constantly dropping standards, constantly hurling abuse, not having, not taking up accountability, like all of these things, you think to yourself, can I trust you? Can I trust anybody? Think about all the trust issues people have towards friendship. We even say get a sister. People in our comments like, we don't want this.
Witches.
Why should we have women in our
Everybody
lives?
is a
Everybody
witch.
is a bastard. You get what I mean? It's like,
Everybody say witch.
and that's just to say friendship. This
And
is someone
for
you
the
see
men.
to, you know, key,
As
just
for
build
the
life.
men.
As for someone you share a bed with, how would, if you can't even let somebody cross the line of friend,
Absolutely.
why would you let somebody cross the line into spouse? Do you get what I mean? So I think that, sorry, I know we've wanted to speak, but I'm getting my thoughts together in my mind and they're coming out of my mouth. I think to myself, if you have a generation that doesn't trust people, how do you trust somebody with your life?
Exactly.
How do you trust somebody with your vow?
Exactly.
Do you get what I mean? And I think that's where we've become skeptical. We don't know if we can trust people. We don't know if we can trust men. If I can't trust you, I can't marry you. And so I would learn to do it without it.
Exactly.
Yeah, sorry.
No, you're totally fine. Completely agree with everything. And I definitely was just anticipating getting to the crux of the matter, which is really, can I trust you? And can I trust you now? And can I trust you later?
Yeah.
I think it's that whole unknown that really, really does make people feel uncomfortable, right? And I think for humans in general, we dislike uncomfortable situations and we dislike the unknown. And I think putting your trust in someone's unknown is really, really scary. And I think also thinking about where we've come to as women, where we've got a whole host of women that are now being very well educated, making their own money in terms of what marriage represents for a whole generation. For a very, very long time, especially in our different societies, marriage has represented safety. It's 100%. Represented security, especially financial security. It's represented
social
status. Exactly. It's been a form of social currency. And we're now coming to a time where there's a lot of women that can do that for themselves.
Facts.
So in terms of seeing marriage as an investment, it's a investment in what now? Because the security, the safety, you know, everything that marriage has traditionally represented is now under threat because there's a lot of women that can hold their own. And I think what's also frustrating about that conversation is there are also a whole host of men that instead of saying, I'm going to come up higher, is I need the women to come back lower. So for a lot of women, it's I can hold my own, but I'm constantly being told by society, by social narratives, by patriarchy, by men that I'm doing too much and that I should dim my lights or I should make less money. I should become smaller. I should, move away from the limelight in order to validate my position in this marriage and in order to validate you as the provider
rather than coming up higher.
So I think there's definitely a lot of disdain, especially amongst women, where it's like, I no longer need this security. I no longer need this safety. I no longer need you to be headship over me because you're not providing me the things that I once needed on the come up maybe many generations ago. And I think that has contributed to a lot of enmity between the sexes, right? Where, you know, you've got a whole host of men who feel like, I don't know what I bring to the table now, which is why you're always constantly coming on these podcasts to ask women, what do you bring to the table? Constantly. You got to stop, bro. You gotta stop. Your table is breaking. Okay? It's breaking. It's made out of plastic straws. All right, I need to stop. And that's why. sorry. No. You know what killed me? Somebody must have said on social media that, especially for the man, then we need a podcast license because I don't know, but you know we've already spoken about like it's giving
nonsense, rubbish.
It's giving incel and all that kind of stuff instead of having productive conversations to men. They're always coming on here to talk to women, and that's another thing, right? Where it feels like for a lot, and I think women have the jig is up. Where women. It feels as though marriages have always been the responsibility of women to sustain.
100%.
When we think about all the things that marriage is supposed to provide us, security, safety, a sense of just a sense of identity, you would think that as marriage is posed as something that's around partnership, the reality is for a lot of women, both in their personal experience, but also just socially and the conversations that we have, it feels like women have to do extra to keep this marriage sustaining. Women have to be obviously the caretakers. They have to be the nucleus of the family. They need to hold it down when things are happening. And men, you know, go off to conquer the land and all of these kind of things. And it's tiring, especially when it feels as though women are now affording themselves security, affording themselves the side of the bargain that traditionally men were supposed to provide. And if there is no negotiation, because marriage is supposed to be about negotiation, constant negotiation, if there is no negotiation, then it really feels as though marriage is a loss to women. And I think of some of the most recent statistics and thinking about like male loneliness and how well they do in marriage. But then when you look at the statistics for women in marriage, a lot of women in long-term relationships, statistically speaking, are actually less happy. They're unhappy. Good. They are more likely to suffer from, mental health issues. They are more likely to feel overwhelmed. They are more likely to feel frustrated. I even saw a statistic. This one annoyed me so much, where women were out earning the men in the marriage, they were still doing more of the housework than the men. And I was absolutely scandalized.
But you see what the issue is. I think when you have a society where people are allowed to resist taking up any responsibility, but still desire to have reward, you find yourself in an issue and the reason why is when I think about like more traditional maybe cultures where even till now, where it's like, no, men, they provide a household. It's a clear exchange. You provide, I will take care of the house. It is a partnership of two people. We understand this thing more so as roles that are being filled. You then get yourself into, and I'm not saying this is better or worse, I'm just saying this as a case study. You find yourself rather coaching men and women to become qualified to uptake that role, right? And with the hope that in observing and fulfilling your roles and your requirements, there will be synergy and there will be it's like two things clicking together. Do you get what I mean? And so that's what will help the household to function. In more Western models, what we're seeing is because you can no longer rely on just one income, because child rearing is very challenging in general, because we do exactly, and because we do not have the same community models of having external people to help us do things like raise children or eat. Do you get what I mean? We have to, because we are so nuclear, that whole model of one person goes out to earn the income, most of us, let's be honest, we cannot do that.
It's not happening.
It can't work. It can't work. It can't work. Okay. Life is too expensive. It can't work. Do you get what I mean? On top of that, we're then taking care of children. If both of us are working, how are we going to take care of these kids? How are we going to make sure the house is clean? How are we going to do X, Y, Z, right? So then you're living in a world where now I'm choosing to partner with you because are you an effective partner, number one? But also, if I can actually provide for myself by myself, right? In a world where actually maybe you can do this thing all on your own. And maybe I will have more peace of mind doing it on my own. Now, if I'm bringing someone into my life, it's no longer based on whether you are able to provide X, Y, Z, no longer just, please, we want both. Okay. But it's not just on whether you can provide entirely for me. It's actually now down to, do I want your companionship? And so the issue here is so many people are wondering, why don't women want to get married? And it's because your companionship sucks. If we can't be friends, if we can't form a basis of trust, love, and you can say, oh, but this is such a Western romantic view. Is it not the Western world that we're living in? You can't be looking at this thing living in America or the UK and then tell me it's such a Western view. We are Westerners now.
No.
We are.
No. Do you know why this actually frustrates me to my core? Because even when we think about like the traditional things that women are supposed to bring or present, right? It's always the aesthetics. It's always the, and there's this conversation going on TikTok right now where it's like people are their minds are blown as to why like, all of these pretty girls and folks that have focused on their aesthetics, like they're finding trouble in relationships and whatnot. It's because it's all a lie.
You don't have companionship.
Think about it. Practically speaking, this is somebody, when you say lifelong, this is my life partner. This means a significant portion of your life you will be spending with that person beyond having sex, beyond looking at me.
You look nice.
Do you know what I mean? I will have to look at you and you will have to look at me.
And also you will have to
spend time together.
We have to be with each other through the toughest of times.
Bro.
And the realest of times. That Instagram picture is not my real life. That small YouTube video is not my real life. There are things in the background which I fight with. There are things which I am going through. There are goals I'm trying to hit. There's a family that I have. There's a future I'm trying to enter. Are you going to be a good friend and do I want to actually connect myself to say, I'm going to do all of this fighting all of this building, all of these victorious things, even with you as a friend. Do I like your personality? And that's why sometimes people want to cast away the importance of having friendship, because it will force them to personally develop in a way which says more than just your sexual appeal, more than just your finances. What do you actually bring to the table? Do you have good conversation? Do you have good reasoning? Do you make good decisions? Are you just an impulsive, highly emotional, traumatized, like just angry person? Like what? How can someone live with that?
Every day?
And it's not to say do not be flawed. It doesn't mean you can't have trauma. It doesn't mean you can't have anger issues. It doesn't mean you can't, be working on yourself. It doesn't mean you can't be a work in progress. It doesn't mean you have to have been a person untouched by life. We sit here on this podcast and talk about how the things we have been through have damaged us, and we're currently on this glowing and growing process to try and repair that into a more beautiful thing. But I think the thing that gingers me so much about it is when I take a more like kind of biblical but spiritual view of this, I think about it in terms of our relationship with God, right? It started off full of laws and fears, and I need this thing for security, and it's moved on into actually choice.
Right.
You have full choice. You have full autonomy. You have the ability to say, and this is why people kind of get scared of women having these critical conversations where they poke and prod at marriage and what it actually is. Because run with me for a second. For so long, we have been sold a lie. About the over romanticized, over glamorized side of marriage that says that once you get married, your femininity is 100% fulfilled, and you will finally, thrive in your womanhood because you'll be a mother and you'll be a wife. And so how many women have bought into that lie, and then they got married and realized they're unfulfilled, they're depressed, their mental health, their finances, everything.
They're bored.
They're bored, their friendships are suffering. Their whole reality has been shattered because they spent their majority of their life thinking this thing will fulfill me, and now it hasn't. It's left me unfulfilled.
Not even a little bit.
Right? But now we're no longer operating under that guise and under that lie. It means that we can actually choose to be in companionship. And many people resist that ability to choose because it feels like there's too much power, but also there's a deep-rooted fear, I think, that they will choose not to do it. Exactly. So how will we get them to marry us unless we continue to beat them into place? Not physically beat, but some people do. If we don't continue to shame them, make them feel as though they cannot operate in the world without the covering of a man, if we do not continue to reinforce these lies, which is why the whole red pill, blue pill, Kevin Samuels, Fresh and Fit, every single person that's on the internet talking was
podcast
all you lot, what you're doing is trying to beat women back into believing a lie. And you're doing it in a cunning way because you think that accessorizing it with little bits of truth will make it seem like it is the ultimate truth, but that's not true. What is actually the most beautiful thing is when a man, a woman, a person can choose, I choose you in my right mind, right? I think the thing that made me think about faith is we're going through waves of people deconstructing their faith. And I think it is both, quite sad to see in terms of people losing it, but also very beautiful to see, because once you deconstruct and you take apart something and you think, okay, what is its true form? Get rid of all the cosmetic and the glamorization and the media. What is this thing I'm actually signing up for? Who is this person I'm actually committing myself to? What is this marriage thing that I say that I want? What is this relationship thing? What is love really? What is commitment? Once you start to deconstruct these things and you then think, no, I still want to choose it, that is the highest form of commitment. That is the highest form of love. That, for example, in our faith, that a God could see all of our flaws for the rest of time and say, I choose you. That we could see the challenges that would come with the burdens of love and choosing to receive and be in commitment with a perfect God, and how burdening that is, and still say, I want to do it because you first loved me. That kind of choice is magnificently beautiful. Do you get what I mean? But it comes with two people who are very aware of what it is they are signing up to, making a commitment to the truth, not to the illusion.
And therein lies the issue, because even when I think about this whole idea of choice, right? This whole idea of when you really inspect a thing to really see what it is at its truest form, a lot of women do that.
Yeah.
it is made manifest in our conversations around what is your intention when you want to date me? Do you want a commitment out of this? But so many of us are shamed when we get to that process because we don't want to come across as desperate to men. We don't want to come across as pressurizing. You should apply pressure. You should apply pressure because marriage is a very serious thing. Being in a long-term relationship is a serious thing. It is a serious choice. And I know that there's a lot of both men and women alike, but a lot of men out there that will shy away and run away from these things, and under the guise of, I want to keep my options open because they're afraid of the accountability, they're afraid of the commitment, they're afraid of the responsibility, but they're also afraid to be to have a light shone on them. And actually, beyond you being a man, masculinity or provision, are you a good companion? And are you actually a good companion? Because genuinely, even what you're saying, friendship, actually being able to hang out in your presence, not feeling fear, not feeling shame. Even when I think of submission, like how many times that has been. That's a whole conversation for another day. At least when we think of, obviously, again, the primacy of Christianity across the West in general, it has been subverted and all kinds of stuff. When I think of the Bible verse that says, wives, submit yourselves to your husband, the instruction was to the wife and not to the husband. And it was an instruction to submit yourself. It wasn't be beaten submitted. Not be submitted. It wasn't man. Look, in fact, the instruction to the man was love your wife.
Exactly. No, you got to take it further. Love your wife as Christ loved the church that he died for. Right?
How many men
That's the bit.
Have?
That's the bit. No, that's the. If you want us to talk about it today, we'll talk about it. That's the bit.
How many men? And you know what? This is why when I think of like good male figures in my life, when I think of the importance of having male friends, having a loving brother, having a loving father, these are all examples of men that I know exhibit that kind of love to me. And it's such a shame, especially for the women that have been traumatized or don't have access to these examples or have been indoctrinated to believe that they have to perform in order to receive love. No. You don't have to perform to receive love. The love should be, it literally is guaranteed. It's active first. It's displayed first. So no, you are not requiring too much when you ask for a demonstration of commitment. You're not demanding too much when you're looking for a demonstration of responsibility. You are not asking for too much when you're looking for a demonstration of accountability. In fact, these things are necessary when we're thinking about life partner. Even when I think about things like having kids and finances and stuff like that, how many men are afraid that, this woman is going to take you as a gold digger or whatever, she's going to steal all of my money and stuff like that. That's not what a companion does. That's not what companionship is for. When you get married, that's a combination. And this is why so many marriages fail, right? Finances is one of the biggest ones, right? Let's actually go there today and have conversations around the ramifications of having a companion that you are married to. Suddenly things are joint. Suddenly credit scores are linked. Suddenly things that you have to pay for is no longer a dual income. If anything, it's not a dual income. It's one income combined. And I think we need to think of marriage as this is a real commitment, but this is also a real conjoining of two becoming one. Even when I think of like the reason why people take it so seriously, if you do want to have kids, is this person suitable to be a father to my children? Beyond him being a partner and somebody that I sleep with and hang out with from time to time, do I trust that this person is not only a good person enough now to have a kid with, but can I trust that they're willing to go on the journey to rear a child with me in its ups and in its downs? Like I think of some of the couples that I know in my life that have been married like 10, 20, 30 years, they've been through real ups and downs, like lows of lows. Can you trust that on your worst day, this person still chooses to say, I do? We think that I do stops at the wedding ceremony. You have to constantly wake up and say, I do. Even if this person is frustrating you, I do. Even if this person, there's so many things you could go through when you're married. There have been people that have been through miscarriages. There have been people that have been through their family dying. They have been through accidents, all that kind of stuff. This is really a life partner you choose. And of course, especially as women, especially as traditional institution dictates that women need to find a protector and a provider. Of course, we're going to take it seriously when we get to those situations and we have to ask ourselves, is this the guy that I want to commit to? In fact, what I want for men is to take marriage more seriously. I need you guys beyond, engaging with women and having your little fun and, dodging commitment and whatnot. as a man, there's so much favor that can come towards you from actually having a wife and treating her responsibly.
Facts.
There's so much favor. The thing about women is women are smart, they're shrewd, they can multiply. There's so many good things that can come out of marriage. But I think our individual enmity towards marriage for different reasons, but also some similar reasons, is preventing a generation of people from actually progressing and thriving despite having similar desires.
Yes.
There's so many men, even when I think of, a lot of men that have been heartbroken and are just out here being players. You guys are looking for love. You don't have to cap out here. You're looking for love. Equally, women, even though we are shamed for it a lot more, women are looking for companionship. Their desires. There are women out there that are desiring marriage. And it is not a surprise that there's now so many women that are just like, I'm not doing it, because I've seen what my mother went through. I've seen what my grandmother went through. I'm seeing all these things on social media. And I think it's also contributing to rising rates of divorce, because
100%.
women are not sitting down anymore
100%.
and desiring more of men. We require you to step into that role of companion, protector, provider. We're requiring you to step into that role of, I'm partnering with you. We are no longer allowing, our downs to dictate whether or not we can continue this alone. There are so many people. I think there was a phrase that was like, there's so many people that are single parents and single mothers that are married
in marriage,
and some of them don't have kids. Some of them don't have kids, and you a single mother. Who's your kid? Who is your kid? And I am not shocked and I'm not surprised why there is so much disdain. However, if we are, because as you said, there are still people, at least in my community that I speak to, that still desire marriage. If we all desire marriage, if there are so many of us that desire that companionship, then we need our standards to change. We need our engagements to change as well. The way that we relate to each other needs to change. It has to. And this is why I joke about having a podcast license, but whilst we may not be able to enforce a podcast license, you have the license to choose who you actually listen to, exactly who you consume. Where are you getting your ideas around marriage and relationships from? If you don't currently have access to healthy relationships, it is your responsibility to actually seek them out now. If you're constantly hearing about divorces, if you're constantly hearing about abuse, if that's actually been your experience, then I would encourage you, please, to find communities, to engage with people that have actually been married and they have good tales to tell as much as the bad ones. Because I think even for a lot of women, we have been traumatized out of marriage. Traumatized out of marriage. We don't want to go through the pain of childbirth, especially for somebody who actually doesn't care enough for us as woman and wife. We don't want to go through exactly. We don't want to have to go through the feelings of loneliness, the feelings of just lacking because this person is not dedicated to being a companion and a friend to us. We no longer want to go through the long periods of isolation and just feeling burnt out because we don't have somebody that cares about us enough to actually be a partner and not necessarily just a man in the traditional sense of the word. And this is why actually the divorce rates are rising exponentially. 100%.
And it's also don't think that divorce is just people initiating a signing on that dotted line and being like, hey, I want to give this up because it's the easy way out. I think a lot of you really have to remind yourself, there's this saying, people don't get married with the intention of getting divorced. If somebody has gotten to the place where they're like, we're ending it, it has come with, and this has not been our lived experience. So we don't want to talk too much on it, but it's coming from a deep place of, woo, there is no other way through this. And you have to remember, that's just the writing on the dotted line, that's just a finalization of something that's already taken place at a different moment, whether it was like both of you giving up, or one person violating trust or violating covenant, violating promise, violating a vow. And you really have to sit with that. But I think the overall sentiment here is, we are really calculating and making sober decisions about who is worthy of taking on the burden, the responsibility, and the blessing of marriage with, right? It's not everybody that is worth that level of selflessness. Let's be honest. It's not everybody that is worth that level of dying to self. It's not everybody that's worth that level of commitment. It's not everybody that's worth that level of vulnerability. And I'm saying that because marriage puts you in the highest position of all of these things. The highest. It is the most vulnerable you are. It is the place where you are most likely to experience your greatest pain, your greatest betrayal. There is a nakedness, a physical and a spiritual one and a soulful one, and nakedness that happens with your partner. I think a lot of women are realizing now, I get to choose who I get to do that with. And if I don't see you, and this is why we're constantly encouraging you, women, you are not doing too much by having standards. You are not doing too much by having expectations. The more you become clued up, and men as well, you are not doing too much by having expectations or standards. The more you become clued up about how important, how beneficial, but also how serious, and serious is the word, how serious marriage and even serious relationships, romantic relationships are, the more you should be guarded, and the more you should be critical, and the more you should be selective about who you choose to do that with, who you choose to do that undressing with, who you choose to literally trust with your future, trust with your seed, trust with your your name, trust with your money, trust with your home, trust with access to you. You are literally building a future with somebody. Is this the person you want to do it with? Think about all the things you want to achieve in your life, all the things you want to overcome and you need to overcome, all the things that you want to build and that you want to establish. Is this the person who's going to help you be able to achieve it? Because the more you become attached to that actually, no, I love this person. This is my companion. This is my highest friend. This is the person who literally I break bread with every day. Once you become more committed to that, every challenge becomes something you work through together. But I think another fear that women are having towards marriage is the fact that, can I even trust that we'll fight this thing together, or will I just be fighting you all the time? Are we going to be fighting each other, or is it going to be me and you against life, me and you for the world, me and you establishing and building our future? Or now, on top of building my future, overcoming trauma, trying to build, I now have to fight you.
Coming like final boss at the end of the game is
and
entirely
that's the
too
thing.
much.
Marriage has been illustrated, and people are understanding that marriage done wrong is stress. It will kill you. It will. Have you watched Acrimony? You should watch it. It will kill you.
We've been talking about that all the time, but genuinely, a bad marriage will kill you.
It will.
It's better
end
to be
your
single,
life.
and that's why there are single babies
exactly.
out there.
And it's better to be single than to enter a bad marriage. Let me tell you that, sisters, please be liberated. I know aunties, uncles, mums, dads, everybody pressure. When will you marry? When will you marry? When will you? Especially with oldest daughter syndrome, and set an example for your dad. I am setting an example. The example that I'm setting is it's better to be single and thriving than married and dying. And so many women are in marriage and dead, walking zombies. Do not just get married. No, do not just get married because you want a ring on your finger. Baby girl, you've got sisters, you've got family, you've got people who love you. Find yourself a community who constantly pour into you, and don't go and exchange that. The fact that you need to be filled, the fact that you need to be loved, the fact that you need to feel affection, feel support, and be in partnership with someone you can trust, and be in safety and security. Have you running and forfeiting and substituting and sacrificing, all of the words, all of these things, just so that you can say you have somebody's last name as your own. You already have a last name. You come for a family. Build those relationships. No. You come from a family. Build those relationships and start building your life. Please.
You know why that's even funny? Even the whole last name, because I know we got to wrap up.
We do.
But that, what makes me laugh about that last name is the importance of reputation, right? Like, because a lot of us are interacting with men in isolated instances.
Exactly.
Back in the day, you needed to know his friends. Exactly. You needed to know what family he came from.
What do people say of this man? What did people say of this man?
And the funny thing is, it's always the reverse. Oh, she's trying to take my last
name. I'm trying to see who's trying to take your A if you don't stop that rubbish.
What is it? What is it that you earned that I'm trying to take?
I have a father.
I hate you. What is it that I'm trying to
Smelly.
take? So much. Child, that last name of yours. This one that even have to, because you know, a man them on social media, they'll be there fighting like, oh, she has to take my last name.
Some of your last names come with village stress. They literally come with village stress.
What does your name is? Are you highly regarded in this village?
There we go.
You're not.
These are all things that you're allowed to consider, women. And you do need to think about. And I think if we're going to see successful, just to bring it down a bit, if we are going to see successful marriages and marriages that make our children or maybe the next generation think, actually, because I was having this thought actually as I was walking from grocery shopping.
Yeah.
I want my children to think, based on my mum and dad's marriage, I want to be married.
This is the thing.
Want to be married. I
want
to build a life. I want to build a home. I want to be in something good. And I will wait until I find that.
Exactly.
I will not settle for a substitute or a counterfeit. I will wait until I have found the real deal before I put myself in a situation where I could be heartbroken because I've been chasing something which was actually fake because I wasn't willing to be patient.
And the funny thing is, ladies, just a bit of a tip, the counterfeit always comes before the real. So be careful. There may be some guys that may be coming and you think they're Mr. Right, but child, they are Mr. You should have left them in 2002.
Have your lens on. Literally have your, and this is why when you're dating, like, don't be filled with, you know, all these things that's us being said on social media and then all of our emotions from our, you know, past relationships. Don't get me wrong, relationships and romance, it's an emotional thing, right?
Absolutely.
But do not be overtaken by your emotions that you lose your sense. You need to have sense.
Do all the checks.
Okay? Ask people, talk to people, help people to get you in your right mind, okay? And be like, yeah, we know, okay, maybe you guys are having sex and the D is great.
We got to put like a little PDF, like checklist.
Just so you can refer to it, just in case you get a bit, you know, rose.
You know what you need to do? Check on company's house if he has any.
No, but biggest man thing. No. But biggest man thing. No, honest
company's
to God.
House, does he have any assets or liabilities?
But honestly, like, even more than just these, like, you know, searching things. Is he living up to his word?
Absolutely.
Is he integral? Does he have values that are aligned with you as well?
The thing is, you're waiting for the ostentatious displays, right?
The small things.
Take me to Amsterdam.
And that's why we've had this conversation about love bombing, right?
Exactly.
Where it's like,
it's a distraction.
All of this is just a distraction from the fact that actually through his small everyday behaviors, you could tell this man is a liar and a fool. So really and truly, you need to be sober. You need to be sober and do not let the emotions and the heightened, you know, the Twitter wars or the gender wars on social media take your sense from you.
This is the thing. Twitter, like, even these social media things that will tell you, like, this is how you validate a man. Twitter will be there for you when you connect with that man and you get with that man. But when things go south, you won't be able to go to Twitter to tell them that this man is a fool. Oh, he did all the right things. What were the right things?
And they'll drag you too. They'll drag you too. Once your face is in the mud, they will also drag you in it more.
Look. Yo, mate, look,
be careful.
In future, we're going to bring on some healthy couples to have conversations and whatnot. Don't be bamboozled and don't be, hoodwinked and all that jazz. But sisters, genuinely, like, we love you. And if, you know, marriage is something that you care for, something that you desire, don't be disheartened and lay in wait that your suitor will be coming. But also, this is an intentional pursuit. And sometimes these things will take time. So don't be feeling too overwhelmed by the fact that you may have aunties, uncles, or folks in your community that are asking you whether you're, you know, getting married soon. Hold fast and, you know, fight the good fight of faith.
Fight the good fight.
It's important that you are actually intentional, especially when we say life partner. We mean life, as in this is the person that you will spend a significant portion of your life with, and it makes sense that you should, you know, take the time that is necessary. And for the sisters that are currently married, we are praying that you are in thriving relationships,
and that your marriages do thrive and make it.
We hope that you guys are able to run the test of time. And we're also praying that you have community around you as well to support you. And for those of you that are in, you know, toxic situations, relationships, we pray that you have, you know, strength. And if it is necessary for you to leave, we also pray that you find the community, the strength to be able to leave that situation and do what's actually best for you, your health, your wellness. And if there are children involved, of course, them too. So sending lots and lots of love. We know that this has ended up being quite a sober conversation. And sometimes those kind of conversations are necessary because the strength of a community is often found in the strength of families. And it's something that we really believe in over here at TMS, whatever your family looks like. So sisters, on that note, you can come and say hi to us, your hosts of the TMS podcast, on our socials. The lovely lady to the left of me in the forest green jumper. I enjoy the way that this is against your skin. It's giving gorgeous. At CD Boateng. And of course, come and say hello to me over at Renee Kapuku. You can follow us on all of our social media at To My Sisters, at To My Sisterhood, the fastest, the most excellent, the most, these are not verified words, we're just saying them about us. At To My Sisters, follow us on everything. And of course, we would love to hear anything that you have to say on marriage. What has been your experience? What have you felt? What have you seen? Do you have disdain towards marriage? Are you trying to get married? We would love to hear it. So please make sure that you hop on the YouTube, the Instagram, the Twitter, wherever, and let us know. And of course, sign up to the mailing list. We will be all up in your inbox, just like we've been all up in your ears for this episode, sharing all of our weekly glowing and growing tips and a nice little personalized message to get you started right in this week. And sisters, we love you so much. Thank you so much for being part of this community. Thank you so much for investing in us. And thank you so much for allowing us to be part of your sisterhood community. Until the next one, keep glowing and growing.
Bye, loves.
We're Renee
and Courtney, your online sisters, and we're on a mission to help women across the world become the best version of themselves through the power of sisterhood.
That's why we've written To My Sisters, a guide to building lifelong friendship.
From working out how to achieve your dreams to setting boundaries and managing expectations, this essential handbook will show you how to fully embrace the power of friendship and community.
Packed with practical advice and personal stories from our decade-long friendship, we'll give you all the tools and advice you need to find, make, and keep lifelong friendship.
To My Sisters is available now online and at all good bookshops.